All right. Start.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us I think we're on our 7th week now, or 6th week of 8 powerful strategies to build your e-commerce business. And we've been going over, Courtney and myself, the acronym launches, the ways that we've taken practitioners from 0 up to almost 6 figures on their stores, sometimes even within as little as a month. So these are 8 powerful strategies to launch your business. They can be done if you are a beginner, grower, or scaler. They're really designed for e-commerce, but they do pertain to any type of sale that you're looking to run online. And today we're going to be running through the educate. So in case you haven't joined us before, I'm Chelsea Newman, the director of sales here at Get Healthy Store. I am a clinician myself, been in the industry now for over 14 years and very digitally minded in terms of health. I started my digital practice around 2014, largely because I lived in Honolulu, Hawaii at the time. The real estate was incredibly expensive. And so I somewhat bootstrapped my business online and learned all the ins and outs. And Get Healthy has come along and served me in a technological way in my practice like nothing has before in the industry. And Courtney Bell is joining us. I'll let her introduce herself, but she's our amazing director of marketing.
Yeah. If you haven't joined us, like Chelsea said, I'm Courtney Bell, marketing director here at Get Healthy, helping Get Healthy scale for a few years now. And my background is in education, marketing, and design. And I hold a master's in neuroscience and education from Columbia. So today is a really exciting topic for me because obviously education is super important to me, but for you as well. And we'll dive into that. But yeah, we're really excited to show you how to really educate your clients. And we're going to hop in and just say that there are no dumb questions. We say this every time, but just want to reiterate that because we encourage interaction during this presentation. We want it to be very informal. Feel free to hop in and ask questions whenever you want. And no one was an expert at this, and we have come up with this launches acronym ourselves. And so we just want to share it with you. We think it's worked really well with our practitioners, and now we are passing it back to you. So anything else you want to say about that, Chelsea?
No, just, well, I guess so, yeah. There is no dumb questions here. This is an industry that has been pushed forward largely with the advent of COVID. Many people were selling online before, but it was very hard for doctors and health practitioners to sell physical goods unless they had their own practice branded store that was requiring developers, and it was a huge investment. So this technology, which is a proprietary software, has been built for the industry. And it makes it easy for you to very holistically prescribe in your practice and sell in your practice 5 categories. So although we're going to go through these strategies, things are constantly changing. There are no dumb questions. And I really like you all to think of it as a physical store that we've built the virtual shelves for you. We've staffed it with the virtual people. We've taken care of all of the checkout for you. Your only job is to go to the virtual stock room, decide what you like, put it on your shelves, make it look pretty, and talk about it. So I think it becomes less overwhelming at that point. And you can take these strategies and think about, how would I use this in a physical store? How would I educate in a physical store, in a physical practice to sell goods? And education, as Courtney said, is one of our favorite things. Many of us got into this industry not to sell. We're not very sales minded, but education, I think, is the number one way to sell, and it allows us to be very genuine. And whether you're beginning, growing, or scaling, this is the foundation of all of the techniques that we've talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So really, we're encouraging you to again, kind of tying back into marketing for good. We want you to have the tools to do that, and one of the ways you can do that is coming from an educational perspective, which you probably already are. So just to review, if you have been staying with us during the whole launches series, then we kind of started with more of a let's get launched, let's get going, let's start selling approach with a limited time offer. We went to an ask method to kind of gather more information about your audience while you start to get some sales in your store. From there, we talked about your unique product offering and your niche bundle. Those are kind of related. narrowing down your niche, trying to get that solidified, and also having your niche reflect back in your store with your product selection and your bundles. So then we went into a community challenge where you can basically build and use your bundles to challenge your community and get them really involved and engaged. And then we went to holiday, where we talked about holiday, getting your holiday calendar set up. And a great way to get your marketing calendar started is by starting with holidays. Um, and now we are to educate. So if you've been staying with us and if you have been trying to implement some of these things, this is a good point to be at where you can start really starting to scale and grow, and start to build courses and things like that. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. So, um, one of the things that Chelsea kind of touched on earlier is that a lot of practitioners do not want to sell. They don't think about that. That's not where their mind is at. They just want to educate, and they just want to, help people, which is totally wonderful, right? But they tend to forget about including their product selection, including their store back into their education. They fear sounding super salesy or, sleazy, and they don't want to, hit people with sales without providing some background information or, giving some value, which is really, the way to do it, honestly. Um, they don't really incorporate their courses and their products together. And so they're really losing out on a lot of opportunity to monetize not only their courses, maybe they sell courses, but they also could be tying in some products, and that could, take your practice to the next level, basically. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Um, Chelsea, did you want to add anything?
No, I just think it's what Courtney said, like fear of sounding salesy is one of the biggest things that I hear with practitioners, but ultimately our stores and your store is going to facilitate someone not buying a counterfeit product, not overspending. So that education piece is key.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so why it is key is because you're giving them a lifetime of tools to use, and you're allowing them the ability to, not be dependent on you, even though you want them to kind of spend their life with you. In a way, you want them to spend a healthy life with you, not an unhealthy life, kind of like the medical system is today. You're giving them the tools outside of being with you to be healthy, to be better. And you can really be there as a guide and almost as a teacher, if you will. So, this wonderful quote about giving a man a fish for a day, you can feed him for a day. If you teach him to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. And you are the one who makes that difference. You can be that person who is the educator, is the teacher. And that way you can really start to see the lifestyle that you want. So people aren't as dependent on you, right? And you can start getting the freedom that you want. But then they can also be healthier. So everyone has a win-win situation. So um, basically, we are going to talk a little bit about the levels of, kind of selling and awareness so that you can make a product sale, because that is the idea. But we're going to kind of show you how to do that, practical tools you can use to do that. So if we start from the left to the right here, we're talking about indirect versus direct traffic, and making people, um, growing people from indirect to direct. So if they are indirect and they're unaware, they don't really know what's going on. They have no idea you have a store. They have no idea you have a course. They're just living their life, right? And so to start engaging those people, there are different ways you can do it. But one powerful way, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into this next week, is stories and secrets. People feel very privileged to have a secret from you, or this is how, for Chelsea, she's, everyone asks her about her beautiful, wonderful, glowing skin, and so she tells people, what's her secret, and she helps them, and she also tells about her story. So this is a good opportunity to start to engage people, make them more aware, and start to capture their attention, without sounding salesy, right? It's something that draws them in, and everyone is drawn in by stories, especially today. It's we have Instagram stories, we have Facebook stories, so it's a really great way to draw people in. Anything you want to say about that, Chelsea?
Yeah, I love to use this story in an indirect way. So I always say, we used to have a very problem unaware market where we could say to someone, headaches are not your problem, headaches are your symptom. And they'd be like, what? That's crazy. They would think that just masking it with a pharmaceutical was the right idea. And I do think as an industry, and I think we very much see this in the buying trend, that we've changed, especially with COVID, that people understand your immune system needs to be supported by nutrition. We saw the immune supplement sales on platforms like Amazon skyrocket like they'd never seen before. People really understood that their health was the cornerstone. Many people reached out to me saying, not, I want to look good in a bikini anymore, like I don't want to die. It was a very different conversation I was having with
Mm,
patients. So stories used to be, I think, a little bit more powerful, but they're still very powerful, but they used to be more top of the funnel. That did you know that there's a different way? Now I think the story and the secret really comes in with the minutia. So we used to be able to sell the idea that you could switch your health in a natural way. And now the story is more around your education towards them, a little bit beyond the uneducated buyer. You're going to come upon a really educated buyer at this point. They're understanding that they need vitamin D. They're understanding that they need magnesium. They're all on WebMD, whether or not to
mhm,
their own
mhm.
detriment. So your stories, I think, have an option to be a little bit more meaty and to showcase your knowledge and make you a little bit more of an expert in the space than they did before. And you can get a little bit more detailed and you can use your knowledge a little bit more than we used to in the past. So I would encourage you in your story and in your secret to drop little nuggets like, hey, did you know that if you're suffering with sleep, I was taking all this vitamin D, I was taking it all day, and I realized it was messing with my circadian rhythm if I took it past 2 o'clock. So you can start to use your clinical knowledge in your stories a little bit more than I think we used to in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. We're more educated than ever these days, and especially after COVID. So I think that's a really, really key point, to mention, that we can be, maybe not, maybe don't include medical jargon or anything like that, but you can be a little more meaty and include more detailed information. I love that.
One way to stay compliant, I'm glad you mentioned that, is to not use the Latin. So just don't use Latin anything, and you're
Mhm.
gonna be quite compliant online.
Good idea. Yeah, that's awesome. Um, Wonderful. Thank you, Chelsea. So the next stage of that is, they're a little bit aware, they're aware of the problem, right? And you're going to be presenting the benefits and the anxieties that come along with that problem. And so this could be a few things. This could be the problem, like Chelsea was just describing, with condition or something like that, and your niche. Or this could also be, from an e-commerce perspective, talking about the problems in the e-commerce industry and Amazon, and how you're getting counterfeit products, and why that's such a problem, and presenting your store in a way that's, you don't have to necessarily tag or include or link your store yet, but you're kind of just talking about it, and you're making people aware that this is a problem. A lot of people, I mean, almost everyone uses Amazon. So they're probably not aware of this. And it's just an opportune time to mention that. So that could be something that you do, to kind of not yet bring in the sale, but make people aware. And then in the middle stage, you're talking about the solution, right? Giving claims and proof. So you could talk about how, maybe some testimonials about how your clients started going to you and seeing better results or something like that. So so
Glad you
that's
said that.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad you said that, because unaware, problem aware, and solution aware, the one thing you want to think about is, what is my ideal client? And so your ideal client might be someone who really just is so lost in the kitchen and they're taking their first steps. And then you're really in that indirect space. But your ideal client might also be the woman with thyroid issues that has tried everything. And then your claims and your proof is more of a educational place that you should hang out than the story and the secret, although they can all be used. But thinking about your end user and what they've been through or not been through at this point when you talk about your store can be very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so once you kind of do that, then you've built some trust and you've built some awareness. And again, the purpose is not necessarily for you to get a sale, but that next stage of where the product they're aware, they know, they've bought in. That's when you need to kind of tie in a discount or a deal, or say, okay, now it's time. Here's my store. Did you know that I have this solution? And you know, link in your buy now links. If you don't know, a buy now link directly lands someone into the cart with a certain product or set of products. And you can do that easily in your store. We can give you the resources to learn how to do that. But I would recommend, after they get to this point and you feel like they're aware, then you can go ahead and, talk about your promotion or your discount. And then once they are the most aware, what I put in here is purchasing courses, tying in products, and really tying together for a long-term solution, a more kind of they're really bought in. Maybe they bought from your store with that coupon code, with that buy now link, and they're really bought in and they're ready to have a lifetime relationship with you. So you can build courses and continue to educate them ongoing.
Yeah. And that one too, it's interesting because we have cart writing functionality within your store as well. And so it's a really direct sale at that point. And I always say we're in an interesting role as a health professional, in that someone has paid you to sell to them. They really are paying you for their education. So that cart writing functionality is going to get you a really nice conversion. And it's really just telling them this is exactly what you should be taking. So it's different from selling maybe on the front end. But the buy now links and things like that is, they're super warmed up. They've been following you forever. They're joining a detox that you're doing in a community challenge. At that point, they're ready to go ahead and purchase, and you can use those direct buying experiences there.
Yeah, we do have a couple of them. That's true. We have the cart recommendation and the direct link. So there's so many different options that you can use and utilize for that warm audience. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and so with that, we wanted to give you a couple of practical ways for you to educate. These are just some, tactics, and I'll let Chelsea speak to them a little bit more and dive deep. But Chelsea, you want to cover those?
Yeah. So I always say, like, entertain, persuade, inspire, and educate. So ask yourself, are you doing these things? These are some things that I've seen work. They're very basic, but it's about you having a little bit of a structure and having fun with it. We've had some very good success with people doing a thing like a Tuesday minute. People have a very short attention span. So don't feel like when you educate that you need to sit down and run a course every single time. It's just a little quick fact that's maybe a minute or less that you jump on and you share, and you make a pre-recorded video, or you feel inspired and you just all of a sudden go, hey, I'm making a mate tea. Let me talk about the benefits here of mate versus coffee, whatever that looks like for you. Fact Friday, we did talk about the ask. And so if you got an overwhelming amount of questions, or you want to make up a bunch of questions, I mean, you could come up with 56 health questions. And I think that's how many weeks are in a year, 56 or 52. You've got a Fact Friday that you can run a really quick, pull something out of the hat. I'm so excited to see you. Oh, someone asked me about the forms of vitamin D, liquid versus capsule, and when to dose. really quick, probably comes off the top of your head. I always say you forget how much you know. Freebie Friday as well, giving something like a little discount. We have some great practitioners who offer that. Monthly office hours. Hey, just jump in. I'm going to train you. It could be in a Facebook group live. I'm just going to listen to what it is that you have to say. Usually that's going to work better for you if you have a larger audience. And then we always say tasty content. We love that term because obviously we're here at Get Healthy and we think about food and nutrition. It's something that someone's educated and entertained with reading. They did not go to medical school because they don't find it exciting like we do. I think I said this on a previous webinar, but I just purchased my first home and my loan officer happens to be my friend and also a client of mine for nutrition. And he spent hours explaining to me all of these things. And I said to him one day, I don't tell you why to eat broccoli. I tell you how to eat it. I tell you how to make it taste good. I tell you when to eat it. And so making these things that are easily digestible for this audience that may not be as passionate about health as we are in the same way. They just really want that tasty, digestible content. So kind of dumbing it down for yourself. There's some great examples of people who just make things really funny. And if you're not funny, don't try and be funny. It's not going to work. Be more educational. But if you like to joke and make jokes, go with it. Really let your personality shine. It becomes authentic at that point.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And then, like we said, always tying in your products, right? Don't forget to, tie in what you think, it could be over vitamin D, like Chelsea said, but make sure and figure out a way to tie in your products. Maybe you could talk about a couple ways to do that, Chelsea.
Yeah, picking something prior, right? So vitamin D, magnesium, collagen, these are the big sellers. And so you could just go through and look at Amazon's top sellers. I think we've presented these before and just pick them. There's about 15 of them that you could just jump on and educate. And it's things that people have heard about before. You also want to think in these things, unless you're niche down to something like a thyroid and you have a bunch of people following you for thyroid, that information is not going to be digestible or warranted for some people. So think about when you're planning this calendar and this education, how can I educate on things that people are already aware of? Everyone's heard of collagen, greens, vitamin D. And if you can go in and impart a little bit of knowledge on them about the forms that they should be taking or why they shouldn't be buying fish oil at Costco, you've probably captured their sale on your store. You can directly link them into a bundle that has it, a product detail page, be very non-salesy with it. Click my link if you're into Instagram and things, for someone who's as digitally savvy as I am, I do nothing on social media. Most of my stuff is done through an inspirational quick thing on Instagram. Our VP of sales took off on TikTok. She'd never done it before. Her 12-year-old trained her and she does one video a month. So really just having fun with it, but making sure that you reference your store. If they don't know that it exists and they don't know that they can buy the products from you, they're never going to know it's there. So really being consistent with your verbiage there is important. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to say it.
Yeah, I love that. And these are kind of like Chelsea said for like quick tips, quick, if you're just wanting something on the fly or, you really do want to talk about a certain product or something like that. But like we've mentioned before, we do have an LMS, a learning management system coming soon. And so you will be able to build out full on courses and you'll be able to link them back to your store. And so basically, there's going to be a two-way street, if you will. It'll go to your store, and then the confirmation email will have your, link back to your course. And so everything will kind of tie back together. The customers will be able to see the course content in their profile. So you'll be able to really tie all of this together. So not only can they purchase your courses from within our system in your store, then they can also purchase products and it can all kind of tie back together. So, that's more of a long-term thing and it can be super sustainable and scalable for you for all time, especially if you do have a niche, then that is something that can really help you take yourself out of the equation again after you've built your courses and after everything's kind of set up. it can provide a really nice way to tie in your store. So you're not only monetizing those courses, but you're kind of taking it to the next level and making a product sale. So we're really excited about that, and just make sure you're keeping up with your email on that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's really it today. Do you have anything else you want to add, Chels?
No, I would just say always have some, well, yeah, have some rules around yourself. So one of the things I say with your social media or your email or anything that you're doing, have a question that you ask yourself. And this question could be as simple as, does this entertain, persuade, inspire, or educate? And ask yourself that little question before you put any content out there. And if the answer is no to any of those, is it really worth your time? Like, have a little bit of a guardrail that you can put to your team or you can put to yourself before you put something out there. And it can make you feel a little bit more authentic as well when you're deciding what to put out in the world.
That's really good. That's good because people might be wondering where do I even start and what's the standard, and so I think that's a really good thing to remember. And yeah, so I think we've got some really wonderful nuggets here, and I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. But we hope to see you on next week's session. We'll cover stories, and it will be our last one. And we're excited that you've joined us. If you have any questions about any of this or anything at all, feel free to contact us. And we will see you next week.
Thank you, everybody.